Hare Ram, Ram. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Pradeep Prabhu, whenever you're ready, you can start, Prabhuji.
Sure, Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Today we are reading fourth canto, 8th chapter from text 61 to 71. Text 61. If one is very serious about liberation, he must stick to the process of transcendental loving service, engaging 24 hours a day in the highest stage of ecstasy, and he must certainly be aloof from all activities of sense gratification. Text 62. When Dhruv Maharaj, the son of king, when the son of the king was thus advised by the great sage Naraja, he circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, and offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvana, which is always imprinted with lotus footprints of Lord Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious. Text 63. After Dhruva entered Madhuvana forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narada thought it was wise to go to the king to see how he was faring within the palace. When Narad Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narada began to speak. Text 64. The great sage Narada inquired, my dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification? Text 65. The king replied, O best of the Brahmanas, I am very much addicted to my wife, and I am so fallen that I have abandoned all merciful behavior, even to my son, which is only who is only 5 years old. I have banished him and his mother, even though he is a great soul and a great devotee. Text 66. My dear Brahmana, the face of my son was just like a lotus flower. I am thinking of his precarious condition. He is unprotected and he might be very hungry. He might have laid down somewhere in the forest and the wolves might have attacked him to eat his body. Text 67. Alas, just see how I was conquered by my wife. Just imagine my cruelty. Out of love and affection, the boy was trying to get up on my lap, but I did not receive him, nor did I even pat him for a moment. Just imagine how hard hearted I am. Text 68. The great sage Narada replied, my dear king, please do not be aggrieved about your son. He is well protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although you have no actual information of his influence, his reputation is already spread all over the world. Text 69. My dear king, your son is very competent. He will perform activities which would be impossible even for the great kings and sages. Very soon he will complete his task and come back home. You should know that he will also spread your reputation all over the world. Text 70. The great Maitreya continued. The king Uttanapada, after being advised by Narada Muni, practically gave up all duties in relation with his kingdom, which was very vast and wide, opulent like the goddess of fortune, and he simply began to think of son Dhruva. Text 67. Elsewhere, Dhruv Maharaj, having arrived at Madhuvana, took his bath in river Yamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by great sage Narada, he engaged himself in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pradeep Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, whenever you're ready, Krishna Prabhu, you can start, Prabhuji.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Prabhu. Are you able to hear, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, you can hear it, Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Sundarananda Prabhu, for giving the opportunity. Thank you all for joining today's Bhagavatam session. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 8. Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest. So we'll start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschapta Deshatarani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktaranda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so just to give a background, so in the last previous chapters, while Maitreya Muni is narrating the dynasty of Swayambhu Manu, so he also narrated the pastime of Daksha Prajapati performing a great sacrifice, and continuing the narration of the dynasty of Swayambhu Manu, Maitreya Muni started giving the descendants of Swayambhu Manu's sons. He has two sons, Uttanapadu and Priyavrata, and Maitreya Muni started narrating the dynasty of Uttanapada, where he has two wives, Mother Suniti and Surichi, and Mother Suniti has a son, Dhruva Maharaj, and Mother Surichi has a son, Uttama. And in the previous sessions, we heard how Mother Suniti's son, Dhruva Maharaj, how he was insulted by his stepmother, Surichi, and due to that he became upset. And on the advice of his mother, Suniti, so he left the palace and went to forest to perform tapasya for pleasing the Supreme Lord, so that he can get benediction from the Supreme Lord with a greater kingdom than Lord Brahma, his grandfather. So, and knowing that Narada Muni came there, and then he tested Dhruva Maharaj's determination, saying that, you are a small boy, it's time to play, not for tapasya, like that. But Dhruva Maharaj is very determined to perform the severe austerity and please Supreme Lord and acquire the greater kingdom than his father and grandfather and our great grandfather, like that. And seeing the determination of Dhruva Maharaj, Narada Muni advises him to perform the Bhakti Yoga, which is mentioned by his mother. Then he also narrated the form of the Supreme Lord and initiated him with the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Then also in the last session, we heard from our Grace Varunda Kumari Mataji how Narada Muni instructed Dhruva how to worship the Supreme Lord. And today we will continue that. And in the text 61, so Narada Muni is mentioning that if one is very serious about liberation, he has to stick to the process of transcendental loving service and engage in 24 hours a day, and also aloof from the activities of sense gratification. So here Narada Muni is saying one should renounce the sense gratification activities. Viraktascha indriyaratau, to renounce from the sense gratification activities. Then practice the transcendental loving service. Must stick to that bhakti yogena. and also seriously, bhuyasa, with great seriousness, so that one can achieve the liberation. So muktaya. So this is the teachings of the great saintly personalities, how to uh, break the cycle of birth and death and come out from all the sufferings and go back home, back to Godhead. But of course, unfortunately, as Kali Yuga is progressing, but our modern education or modern advancement is teaching completely reverse. Like, it is facilitating or encouraging more and more towards the sense gratification. So then where is the chance of liberation? It is very difficult. So, and that's why Prahlad Maharaj says that if we don't turn towards Krishna, but follow the leaders who encourages more sense gratification, then it is like a person, a blind man following a blind leader. So andha yatha upani manas. So then what would happen? So all of them will be unsuccessful because the leader is blind and the followers is also blind. So then there is no chance of reaching the goal of the human life. So and instead, where one can go back to Supreme Lord. So instead of that, if one follows the blind leader and engaged in the sense gratification activities, they'll continue the cycle of birth and death. So which is miserable and suffering. Andhayatha. So that's what Prahlad Maharaj mentions. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that if one wants liberation, if they are very serious, then they have to take up the process of Krishna consciousness without any material desires. Anya vilashita sunyam jnana karma dhyanavrutam anukulyana Krishna anusilam bhaktiruttam. So they should give up the sense gratification activities or the philosophical speculation, and instead one should constantly serve Krishna favorably. So that's what he mentioned here also, right? 24 hours a day. So the devotee must be engaged in Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day. Sada kirtaniya hari. Or Bhagavatam also mentions that ahaitiki apratihita, like it should be uninterrupted and unmotivated. So of course, as a practicing devotee, so one should try as best as to connect all our activities centered with Krishna, so that in that way we are engaged 24 hours a day in Krishna consciousness. So that the senses will not attack us. So if we are not engaged in Krishna consciousness, then the senses will attack us and it will pull us into the sense gratification activities, because they're very strong. Senses are very strong. Balavan Indriya Gramo. So it's mentioned that the senses are very strong. Not just for an ordinary personality, even for the very learned personality. Vidvamsam api karshati. So even someone who has very learned in the Vedic teachings or progressed in the path of bhakti also. So if they are not engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness, then the senses will attack us and then they will pull us. So the scriptures gives many wonderful examples also. Like there is one pastime like where so one time due to the statement of a chaste woman, so the sun god is stopped rotating. And sun god star always 24/7 in the service of Krishna, rotating and giving the light to the three worlds. But due to the statement of a chaste woman, so there is a story behind that, why the chaste woman did like that. She told that, if I am chaste, then the sun would not rise tomorrow, like that. So then the sun god is stopped. Now there is a break to the sun god to the service of Krishna. So then the sun god charioteer is Aruna. So he asked what to do, because now there is no service. So then sun god mentions that, we don't know when this issue will be resolved and we will continue our service. So until that time, we have to wait. And then because there is a break, the first thought will come, what to do this time. So, and generally the senses are very strong. It will pull us into the sense gratification activities if we don't connect that free time to the Krishna consciousness. I'm talking to myself. So Aruna attends a dancing party, so dance party, but the dance party is only allowed for a woman. So it's in Indra's palace. So Lord Indra's palace, there is a great dance going on. Only all women are allowed. The apsaras are like that. And then this Aruna transforms himself, changes his form into a beautiful lady and enters into it. And then there is a Indra got attracted to Aruna, who is in the form of lady, and then there is a physical union. And because of that, we hear Vali is born, like one of the great character in the Ramayana. And then he comes back, and then he tells to sun god what he did, and then sun god also wants to see him in the form of woman, lady. And then Aruna transforms himself again into the form of a lady, and then sun god gets attracted, and then there is a physical union. And then we see that another great character of Ramayana, Sugriva, is born. So like that, basically that pastime is for ourselves. It's a teaching, like if we don't engage our time or energy or anything, or connect to the Krishna consciousness activities, then the Maya or the senses always pull us into a sense gratification activities. And due to that, one would go through the reactions of those sense gratification activities and continue the cycle of birth and death. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosha darshan. So this is all, the teachings that from these pastimes, Krishna is teaching to all of us, like, how the senses are strong. So why it is very important to be connected all our activities to Krishna consciousness. So then in this text 62, we see that Dhruva Maharaj, after advised by this great sage Narada, so he offered his obeisances and circumambulated to his spiritual master. Then he started to Madhuvana, which is a holy place because it's imprinted with lotus footprints of Lord Krishna. That's why it is very auspicious. So here we see that one should give all respect to the bona fide spiritual master. So it should be in this as same as the one gives respect to the Supreme Lord. So we sing, most of the devotees sing every day the prayers, the morning prayers, like Sakshat Haritvena Samasta Shastre Uttattasa Bhavyata Eva Satvi. Like the spiritual master should be honored as much as we honor the Supreme Lord, because he is the confidential servitor of the Supreme Lord. So that's why one should offer all the respect to the Supreme Lord, where we see that Dhruva Maharaj is doing that to his spiritual master Narada Muni. And then he started to Madhuvan. And we heard from the last session from His Grace Sri Krishna Prabhu, this Madhuvana is also one of the 12 forests of Vrindavan, Vrajamandal. So there are 12 forests in Vrajamandal, and one of them is Madhuvan. And this is holy dham because it is imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Krishna, and it's very auspicious. So these, when we visit holy dhams, when one is in holy dham, it is very conducive to progress in the path of bhakti, because the environment and the people who stay inspire us to progress in the path of bhakti. So even when we go to holy dham also, even for a visit, so our purpose should be to associate with those saintly personalities who are residing in that holy dham and inquire from them how to progress in the path of bhakti. Not only taking the darshan of the Supreme Lord in that place, but associating with those great saintly personalities and be inspired from them. So that when one comes back from the holy dham, then they can continue that inspiration and practice Krishna consciousness or bhakti yoga more attentively. Of course, as Sri Krishna Prabhu mentioned, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, so we have many ISKCON centers, and Prabhupada mentions that they're all holy dhams. So we can visit one of the ISKCON temple nearby, connect to that temple, and we can be part of any services that the temple has and associate with the devotees. So in this way, we'll be in Holy Dham, and also make our home also Holy Dham by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, worshiping the deities like that. So that we can slowly progress in the path of bhakti and ultimately reach the goal of the human life, going back home, back to Godhead. So then in the text 63, we see that Dhruva Maharaj, after entering it, he executed the devotion service. At the same time, Narada Muni thought to go and see the king. So, and when Narada Muni approached the king, so now the king received him very nicely. And now Narada Muni is started speaking. So here we see that, Dhruva Maharaj, being a sincere disciple, with great determination, he want to execute the instructions that were given by his spiritual master. And this should be the tendency of a disciple, a sincere disciple. Like, should execute the instruction that was given by spiritual master sincerely and seriously. So then one can make their endeavor, that endeavor becomes successful. So, and then in the sloka 64, Narada Muni is saying that seeing the king, he understands that the king's face is withering up and look like is telling to king, is asking king that whether the king is thinking something for a long time, and what is that. And then he's also asking whether the king has been hampered in following your path of religious rights, economic development, and sense gratification. Prabhupada mentions that there are 4 stages of advancement of human civilization. They're like dharma, artha, kama, moksha, following the religious principles, and then economic development, sense gratification, and then ultimately liberation. But here, Narada Muni is asking only about 3, like following the religious principles, economic development, and sense gratification. Because when one is not renounce the sense gratification or engaged in the sense gratification, then there is a very less scope of thinking about the moksha, the liberations. That's why Narada Muni is asking only about those 3 in this case. And of course, as Kali Yuga is progressing, people are not even following the religious principles also to end the economic development. Like out of the 4, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, the first one and last one are neglected. So there is no dharma, or even if somebody is trying to follow, very less. So, and then there is no inclination towards moksha. So only economic development and sense gratification, artha and kama. So as the Kali Yuga progress, those 2 things are given more importance. So people wanted to earn some or other, whether even if they have to follow adharmic activities, religious things, to earn money, so they are not hesitating. And for what purpose? Sense gratification. So artha and kama is prominent. So dharma and moksha are more or less neglected. So in the text 65, Narada Muni is asking, the king is replied now, saying that the reason why he has been very sad, or his face is withered up, saying that he is very much addicted to his wife, Surichi, and due to that, he felt he is so fallen and abandoned all his merciful behavior to his son. And not only that, he banished his son and also his mother. Not that they are not listening to him, or they are performing religious activities like that, but they are very great soul. Dhruva Maharaj is a great soul and a great devotee. And Prabhupada mentions why the king is saying that banished his mother, because his mother is in the palace only. Prabhupada mentions that because the king Uttanapada's addiction, or addicted to his second wife, so he neglected his first wife. So he could not give a proper attention or treatment to his first wife, Suniti. So that is equivalent to the banishing Mother Suniti. And due to his attachment, when Mother Suruchi is speaking with to little Dhruva with very harsh words for a simple thing, and he did not objected Mother Suruchi because he has a great addiction to Mother Suruchi, and that caused little Dhruva to go to forest. So that's why indirectly he is the cause of banishment to little Dhruva. And Prabhupada mentions that according to Manusmriti, one should not banish his son or his kids or wife if they are great souls or nice. There could be some times where they are sinful or not performing properly, then it is okay. It's given up, but not in this case. So then in the text 66, King Uttanapada is continuing, saying that speaking about his son, little Dhruva, who was his face is like a lotus flower, and he's thinking about the precarious condition of little Dhruva because he's in forest now. He's thinking that he's unprotected, might be very hungry, thinking about what he's going to get in the forest to eat and where he's going to sleep, and how he is going to be protected from these dangerous animals. So this is the nature of the parents, like they're always concerned about their kids, especially when they're away for the job or education, even though they are grown up and capable of handling the situations appropriately, still the parents, due to the affection and love for the kids, so they always think about how he is living or how he is eating. Especially mothers would think about whether he's eating nicely, he's getting the food that he likes, something like that. And father might be thinking about whether he's studying nicely or he's in a safe environment, is not getting into a dangerous situations like that. So similarly here also we see that Uttanapada is worried about his little son Dhruva because now he's in forest. In the forest where there are wild animals, so and there is a possibility that they will attack little Dhruva. So he's worrying about his son Dhruva, whether he is going to get the food that he likes, he is able to eat it, like that. And then he's in the text 67, he's repenting, like you see that how he has conquered by his wife and he became very cruel. And he's also saying that little Dhruva, when he, with love and affection, when he was trying to get onto his lap, king did not receive him properly or did not even pat him for a moment. So that's why he's repenting how hard-hearted he became. And then in the text 68, Narada Muni is replying to King Uttanapada that is pacifying the king that do not be aggrieved because he is well protected by the Supreme Lord. And he's giving the to King Uttanapada that though you have no actual information, his influence or his reputation is already spread all over the world. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that when we hear that someone is going to forest to do serious devotional service, then we may be thinking that how will we be protected by the wild animals or what he will be eating, like that. But here Narada Muni is giving that answer, like anyone who engages in the path of bhakti, so then Krishna will protect them. And I am sure there are many examples in the scriptures, right? How Prahlad Maharaj was protected in many dangerous situations because he is taken up the path of bhakti sincerely and seriously. And we hear how Rajavasis are protected by Lord Krishna by lifting Govardhan hill from the wrath of Indra. So, and even we see that Pandavas, They were kept in many dangerous situations, and Krishna is always there to protect. So when somebody takes up Krishna consciousness sincerely and seriously, so Krishna will protect them. So and we hear from Ramayana also, like, Lord Ramachandra says that it is his vow that he will protect and he will give shelter. So whoever comes and surrenders to him. So um, so one who takes up the path of bhakti, Krishna is protected. So that's what Narada Muni is assuring to King Uttanapada that so do not worry about your son, because he is already protected by the Supreme Lord, since he has taken to the shelter of Supreme Lord. So if we can also following in the footsteps, if we take shelter of Supreme Lord, then we have a great protection. And also here we see that the little Dhruva's influence and reputation already spread all over the world. So if of course devotee doesn't look for name and fame, but because of his deep devotion and surrender to the Supreme Lord, his name and fame already it will spread. So here in the pastime of Madhavendra Puri, like when he went to the Shir Gopinath temple, and he wanted to taste that kheer rice that is offered to Gopinath in the temple, but he felt himself that it is inappropriate. But Krishna stole the part of the sweet rice, and in the dream he tells to the pujari to go and give this to Madhavendra Puri. So because Madhavendra Puri is a pure devotee, so his name and fame spread from that pastime, and wherever he goes, by the time he goes to that other place, already people comes to know about him because of his great devotion. Of course, devotees are not looking for the name and fame, but they are always interested in pleasing the Supreme Lord. So in the text 69, you see that Narada Muni is telling to king that little Dhruva is very competent and he will perform activities that are impossible even for great kings and sages. And he's assuring that he will complete his task and come back home. Not only his name and fame is spread all over the world, but even his father's name and fame also spread all over the world because of having the great son. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that so in the sloka, Dhruva Maharaj is mentioned as Prabhu by Narada Muni because Dhruva Maharaj is a great devotee and is one of the acharya in the Vaishnava school. And also another meaning of the Prabhu is master of the senses. And Dhruva Maharaj is able to control his senses. That's why he's also mentioned as Prabhu. And another point is mentioned here is so he will perform activities that are impossible for even great sages and kings. So what is that activities? Is to please Supreme Lord Krishna through the process of bhakti. So why Narada Muni is so confident that he will perform this great activity? Because Narada Muni saw the determination of the little Dhruva to please the Supreme Lord. So that's why Narada Muni is kind of sure that little Dhruva will perform this task, even it is this task, even it is impossible for the great kings and sages. So similarly, with the inspiration of this Dhruva Maharaj's pastimes, we can also try to implement in our day-to-day activities. Like if we are chanting whatever the rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra we are chanting, so we should try to chant every day without fail, whether it is rain or shine. So we should chant our prescribed rounds. Of course, Prabhupada mentioned to chant 16 rounds every day and follow 4 regulative principles. With great determination, if we can do these activities throughout our life, then we'll be successful. And then in the text 70, Maitreya Muni continuing saying that after Narada Muni advised to King Uttanapada And King Uttanapadava, he gave up all the duties in relation to kingdom, and then simply began thinking of his son little Dhruva. And then the text 71, we see that Dhruva Maharaj arrived to Madhuvana, and then observing the fast in the night with great attention, and as advised by the great Sajanarda, he engaged himself in worshipping the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada mentions that this is the process. Dhruva followed the instruction of his spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, as it is. And if we see the life of the great saintly personalities who became successful, they all followed the instructions that were given by their spiritual master with great faith, like Valmiki Mahamuni or Mrugari, like that. So Prabhupada mentions that if one acts very seriously based on the instruction of the Guru, then he will become successful. And one should not be very anxious, like, when would I go back home, whether I will be successful in pleasing the Supreme Lord Krishna, like that. Instead, a sincere disciple focus and concern is how to please the Guru, or how to execute the instructions of the Guru that was given. So then they will be perfected. And in that way, they would please Supreme Lord Krishna also. So I'll pause it here. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Krishna Prabhuji.